Hey, what's up guys? In the last episode, we were able to complete our landing page together with the animated side navbar. In this episode, I want us to work on the About section together with the Services section. In case you're new here, my name is Charles. I am a JavaScript developer, a coffee lover, and I create coding content here on YouTube. Now that sounds awesome, so make sure you subscribe and turn on post notification so that you don't miss any of my videos. In case you want to reach out, you can do so through my email, which is chaocharles@gmail.com, or through Twitter @chaocharles. Now let's start laying down the HTML structure of our About section. So open your index.html file, and after the closing section tag of the landing page, we will add a new section with a class of About. So right here we will say section dot about, enter, and we will also add an ID of about. So ID is equals to about, and then inside the sections tag we will add a div with a class of container. So dot container, enter, and then inside this div we'll have two other divs. One div will hold our image, and the other div will contain the content of our About section. So right here we'll add a div with a class of about img. So about img, enter, and then inside here we will add the image with a class of about pic. So img dot about hyphen pic, enter, and the src will point to images / profile pic. The alt will be Chaoo Charles, and when I scroll here you can see that the image was added. And then after this div which have our image, we will add another div with a class of about text box. So dot about text box, enter, and inside here we will have a h2 which will simply say hello, and we will have an emoji. So I'll just come to this one and copy this emoji, paste it here, and then we will have three p tags which will have a description of ourselves. So I'll add p tags with some dummy description. So rorem, and when I save the file it will reformat the line to be much shorter, and then I'll copy this p tag and paste it 2 more times right here. So one more time, that way. Now what is remaining is just a horizontal line, this one right here, which have a nice gradient, and we will add it just before we close our section tag. So HR, which is a self-closing tag. Okay, now let's go and start styling our about section. So open the main.css file, and then right here I'll add a comment, and this will be about, and then we will select the about class. So dot about, and add several styling. The first one will be a width of 100%, and then we'll have a min height of 100 VH. So this will occupy the entire screen, and then we will have a max width. So max width of 70 rem, and then we will add a margin of auto so that we can center the content. So margin will be auto. So when I open this one to be larger, you can see that the content is at the center. Now let's select our container. So right here I'll say dot about dot container, and what we'll do here is to add a display of flex. So this will place our image and the content side by side, and then we will add align items to be center. So this will bring the image to be at the center together with the content, and then we will add a min height of 80 VH. So this will create a spacing at the top and also at the bottom here. And then let's now style our image here. We'll come right here and select it. So dot about, and this will be img, and then select the image itself, and we will add a height of 12 frame, and then we will add a width of auto, and we will add a border radius to be 50%, and we will add a margin of 2 rem. So this will make the content to overlap with the image, but don't worry, we'll fix that in a minute. But before we fix it, let's add a box shadow for the image. So box shadow, and we want it to go on the bottom. So this will be 0, and then bottom will now be 20 px, and then you can see that we have a shadow. We will make it blurry by adding a blur of 30 px, and the spread will be 0, and we'll set the color for our border shadow to be RGBA, and this will be 0, 255, 255, and then the opacity will be 0.15. Now let's fix our content, and how we'll do this is to change the flex properties, the default flex properties, and set our ons. So we will select the text, the whole of this text, and we gave it a class of about text box, and we will add a flex grow of 1. We will also add a flex shrink of 1, and finally we will add a flex basis of 0, and this will allow our content to look much better. So here I made an error. This is supposed to be flex. I will refresh. So it's not coming through, and we must have made an error somewhere. I'll check if this class is correct. So I'll come to index.html file, and yeah, it's wrong. This is supposed to be about text box. That's why it's not working. And there we go. So now it's fine. So let's continue, and we will start styling our content here. Let's start with the h2 here. So at the bottom here we will say dot about text box and select the h2, and we will add a font size of 4M. So this will be much bigger. There we go. And then let's add a margin bottom right here. So margin bottom of 20px. So this will create the spacing between the heading and our first paragraph. And let's go on and style our paragraphs. So to select the paragraph, we will say dot about text box, and then we select the p tag, and we'll start by changing the font family. Remember, we had two font families in our project. One was Chaoo Mono, which we made to be the default, and the other one was Poppins. So I want to make this one to be Poppins. So right here we will say font family to be Poppins. So Poppins, and we will have a fallback of sans serif. So sans serif that way. So when Poppins it's not available, our project will use this font. Now let's go ahead and change the font size. So font size will be 1.4 rem, and we'll set the padding to be 0, and then we'll add a margin bottom for each paragraph so that we can easily distinguish them. So margin, and this will be margin bottom of 1.45 rem. So there we go. You can see it's now coming along. So this is already cool. Let's now make our line here to have some gradient color. How we will do that? We will select the HR. So right here we'll say HR, and then inside here we will add a margin of 4M top and bottom, and left right will be 0. And then let's add a background, and this will be linear gradient, and it will be to right. And then the first color will be RGBA 249, 105, 14, and then 1. This will start from 0%, and then The second color will be RGBA 102, 51, 153, and an alpha of 1, and this will go to 100%. So at the moment you can't actually see it, and that is being prevented by our border. So what we can do is to remove the border by saying border to be 0, and then set our HR height to be 1px. So there we go. Now this is cool, and we are actually done with our about section. So you can use a different color on our HR here and a different box shadow, but that's it. It's very simple and clear. So when we want to make this to be mobile responsive, all we will do is to change the flex direction to be column, so that the image will appear at the top and the text will be at the bottom. So that's it for this section. In the next section, we'll start working on our services. In this section, let's start working on our services section. So just after we close the section tag of our about section, I'll add a new tag here, which is section tag with a class of services. So section dot services, enter, and we'll also add an ID here of services. So ID will be equal to services, and then inside this section tags we will add a div with a class of container. So dot container, enter, and then we will add a div with a class of title heading, and this title heading will hold our title here and also this text. Okay, so it's both of these. So right here I'll say dot title hyphen heading, enter. In here we will add a h2. So h2 will be digitize your business. So I'll copy that and paste it here, and then we'll have a p tag which will have this text. I'll just copy and paste it here, and then just after this div I will add another div with a class of service hyphen tyres, enter, and in here we'll now have individual tire items. So I'll add another div with a class of tire hyphen item, enter, and then we will have an icon to begin with. So which will have a class of far hyphen code, and this is a font awesome class, and then we can add an attribute area hidden to be true for accessibility reasons, and then we'll have a h2. So just after the I'll add a h2 which will hold web development. I'll just copy that and paste it in here. And then we'll have a P which will hold this text. I'll copy to begin with and then enter the P tag, and actually I'll use some dummy text here. So Rodem, and that way save to auto format, and there we go. Now this layout will be similar to our other two layouts. So all I'll do is to select this div which have a class of tyre items and copy the whole of that code, and then below here I'll paste it 2 more times. And we can now customize each one of them. So this one will have a class of far mobile, and then this one will hold responsive design, and I'll leave the P tag as it is, but for you make sure that you have the correct text right there. And then right here I will use an icon which will have a class of far file hyphen code and then hyphen o, and then it will have a h2 of PSD to HTML. So I'll paste this one right there, and the P tag I'll leave as it is. Now all we need to add is a HR just before we close our section tag, and we can now preview this right here. I'll scroll at the bottom and we have all the text available. Let's make it look more awesome using CSS. So jump right into CSS file, and at the bottom here I will add a comment services, and we start doing some magic with CSS. So the first thing, we select the services class, so dot services, and then in here we will add a padding of 0. So this 0 will be left, right, but top and bottom will have a padding of 3 rem. And then we will add a min height of 100 VH, and then we will add a max width of 90 rem, and then we will add a margin of auto so that it center the content that way, and we can preview this. You can see that it's at the center. Now let's go on and select title heading, and remember the title heading includes this paragraph and this h2 right there. So right here I'll say dot title hyphen heading, and then we'll say text align to be center, and then we will add a margin bottom, margin hyphen bottom, and this will be 5 rem. So let's go ahead and select our h2, this one, digitize your business, and this will be dot title heading, and then we select the h2 tag, and all we will do is to add a font size of 2 rem and a margin top will be 0.5 rem, right will be 0, bottom will be 1 rem, and left will be 0. So this will create a spacing between these two. Then let's go ahead and select our p tag. So right here we'll say dot title heading, and we select the p tag. In here we change the font family to be Poppins, so Poppins, and a fallback of sans serif, and then we will add a margin bottom of 5 rem, and then let's start styling our services tires. First of all, I'll select the whole of this section using this class that we added earlier, dot service hyphen tires, and we will add a display, and this time we will use grid, and then we will add grid hyphen template columns, and we will add a function called repeat, and then in here we will add an auto hyphen fit. This will make our services section to be mobile responsive even without using at media queries. And then we'll add a min max, and right here we'll use 25 frame, the minimum, and then right here we'll have 1 fr, which will create flexibility when occupying the space that is available. So right now when I expand this, okay, nothing happened. So this is supposed to be auto fit, not auto fix, auto fit. And now when I expand this, you can see that we already have some magic happening. Now to create some spacing between each tire, we will use this line of code. At the bottom here we will say gap to be 2.5 rem, and when I expand again, you can see now each section is distinct. So this is cool. You can see that it's already mobile responsive even without using at media queries. Now let's style each of these tires. So we gave a class of tire item to each of these one. Let's select that dot tyre hyphen item, and we will add a height of 30 rem, and then we will add a padding of 3 rem, and then we will add a position of relative and display to be flex. I'll scroll up, and then let's fix the flex direction to be column, and we justify content to be center, and we set the cursor to be default. So when we preview this, you can see that we added a good height to each one of them. Now let's go ahead and style each of these individual stuff. To start with, we'll start with the icon here. So let's select that icon, and all we'll need to do is to use .tyre item class, and we select the eye. We change the font size to be 3.5 rem. So now it's much more visible. Let's go ahead and select our H2 here. So we will still use the tyre item class and select the H2 tag, and then we will add a font size of 2 rem, and then we will add a margin top and bottom of 2 rem, and left right will be 0. So this is supposed to be a semicolon. We also add a semicolon there. So you can see we have now a margin top and bottom, and the font size is cool. Now let's add the linear gradient that we have right here, like this one, and we had already done that in our previous episode. So I'll make my work a little bit easier. Go at the top here and look for it. So here it is. I'll copy from our background to our WebKits copy, and then I'll scroll again to the bottom and then add it here. So this will create a cool linear gradient on our H2. If I preview this, you can see that we are almost there. All we need to do is to change the font family of our p tag. Okay, let's do that real quick. At the bottom here, we will still use our .tyre item class, but now we select the p tag, and what we need to do is to set the font family to be Poppins, and also we add a fallback of sans serif. So you can see already we have what we have here, and the last thing I'll do here is to add a font size of our p tag to be 1.4 rem, and that's it for our services section. You can see how easy it was, especially when using CSS grid. Now there is one last thing that I want to mention in this episode, and it is JavaScript related. And when I come to our side navbar, go to our about section, you can see it's working. Go to services, it's working. Go to our landing page, it's working. But there is one issue. When we select this, it's not closing our side navbar. When we select this, it's not closing our side navbar until you click the X, and that is a bad user experience. So we are supposed, when we navigate to a section, it automatically closes our side navbar. Now to do that, we need to go to our JS file and do something to it, which will be really easy if you followed the last episode. So I'll go back to my code editor and open my main.js file. So the first thing that I'll do, I'll use for each, like we did here, to select each of these links that we have here, and then we will toggle our side navbar, Just after this one, I will add a new line here, and we already created a constant called navlinks, so it's the one that I'll use here, navlinks dot for each, and then this one will give us a link. So this link will represent each of those links, and then we can use an arrow function here. We open curly brackets and we do something in here. What we need to do is to add an event listener to our link here. So I'll say link dot add event listener, and the event listener that we are adding is the click event listener, and then we will have a callback function here. We use an arrow function and we do something in here. So once we click a link, we want to close that side navbar, and the easiest way that we can do that is to select our nav list like we did here, and then we toggle the class active. Okay, so I'll just copy this line of code and then paste it in here. So let's see if this is working already, and open, let's go to services. It is crossing that side navbar, but this is still remaining to be an X, so we need to also handle this, and all we need to do again is to copy this line which have our burger menu icon, and we toggle the class toggle. So I'll come and paste it right here, and let's see if it works. I'll open, it opens, go to services, it closes and changes this back to a hamburger menu icon, but there is still an issue. When I open, the nav links are not there, they disappeared, and that is because we already have an animation in place, and we are trying to add another animation when opening that side navbar. So what we can do is to reset that too, and this is also a matter of copy and pasting. So I'll copy this code which have navlinks dot for each, and copy just below here, right here. I'll add a semicolon, enter, and uh, paste it right there. So what this will do, if the animation exists, it will reset it to uh, an empty string, else it will create an animation. So that is what is happening there. Let's test it out. I'll open, go to the about section, and open, and still we still have an issue. So what I can do is to refresh this. Let's see, services, open, and our links are there. Okay, it just needed to be refreshed, and everything is now working fine. So that's it for this video, and you can see that we have made a lot of progress with our portfolio. We have an animated side navbar which is now working fine, and in the next section we'll start working on our projects, and then we'll also work on our contact section, our footer, and hopefully we'll also make our application to be mobile responsive. So that's it for this video. I hope it was helpful, and just leave a thumbs up if you liked it, and I'll see you next.